The soft glow of sex.
See it? And the bowling ball that he got?
It is. Statue. There's your favorite Edward Chili. You guys been here before?
Again, missing maybe a couple people, but anyway, my name is Chuck. I'm your tour guide. I'll be your host for the next 45 to 50 minutes. Welcome to the House of a Christmas Story. I did mention a little bit ago that this is the original house, founded in 1870. Whole neighborhood was founded in the early 1900s for the steelworkers, including the little Raleigh Inn across the way that was established in 1906. So I didn't get to ask everyone, has everyone seen the movie?
Yes.
Some people don't. Because they wouldn't want to do that. And if you haven't, it'd be better for you. It's better that you come to me midstream and say you didn't see it. Don't tell me now, because I'll be kidding. All right. So the rule of thumb is, if you've seen the movie, if you can look in and out the windows during the course of the movie, that's your clue it's filmed here at a Christmas Story house. But if you can't look through the window, that's your clue it's filmed at a soundstage in Toronto, Canada. And Toronto came into play because Bob Clark, the director, had a relationship with those folks. And that's a good thing, because back in 1983, there wasn't a whole lot of snow flying. So all the major snow scenes are in Toronto. Bully scenes. Victorian School, where the flagpole scene is, that's in a neighborhood called St. Catherine's. The same neighborhood boasts the Chop Suey Palace. By the way, they don't serve Chinese anymore. I think it was Chinese just for the movie. It's actually a French restaurant. It's still open, so you get French cuisine, and they'll humor you by taking your photos because they know why you're there. Pretty cool. Not for that Canadian guests. The Christmas tree lot is in downtown Toronto, and the Old Fudge scene is at a bridge called the Cherry Street Bridge in Toronto, and I'm a big geek with all that. I got all the information on my phone, so if anyone's planning a trip to Toronto anytime soon, I can get you all the addresses and all that info. I just got a picture back from a couple of gents from Canada showing me the Victorian School present day. It's beautiful. It's a women's shelter now. It's pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story about how they would find a house. That's the $64,000 question on the weekends here. We have self-guided tours, brings everyone out of the woodworks, and everyone wants to know, why Cleveland? How did it end up in Cleveland? Well, I'll tell you how that all happened, pretty random. And then you'll have a chance to take photos upstairs and down. We'll convene briefly before we head out to the backyard, where I'll tell you about Black Bart and his gang. And then, if that's not enough for you, we head over to the museum where you catch all the real stuff, the memorabilia, the props and such, okay? And then it's about 45, 50 minutes. Now, I almost forgot. So a gentleman by the name of Brian Jones would purchase this house off of eBay back in 2004 for $150,000, then put another $250,000 of his own money to bring it up to movie spec. So everything you see here is Brian's handiwork. It was a little limited, it is. You now understand that some of the filming was in Canada and some of it was here. So he just wanted to make it it's totally interactive for you folks. And I think you did a really nice job, including the furnishings. And you're more than welcome to sit down on them. And I'm going to get up here on my perch and I'll tell you the story. I'm going to try to knock this out in just a few minutes. And then you'll have time to, like I said, run around here a little bit. All right? All right. And this is all without coffee. Can't do coffee on tour mornings. I love coffee, but yeah, I'd be up the rail by now. All right, so two men would collaborate to make this movie. One was Gene Shepard. He's our author. He's the adult Ralphie you hear narrating the movie. And then there's Bob Clark, the director. And Gene would grow up in a little town of Hammond, Indiana, and he would become a short story journalist and a radio personality. And he would write a little book called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. This little book would become a New York Times bestseller, and several of its stories would be adapted to make this movie. So the story goes, Gene would end up having a national radio program that would hail out of New York City. And Bob Clark, who grew up near Miami, Florida, was driving across town one night, and he would catch Gene's radio program in the car. And he would hear the story about Flick getting his tongue stuck to the flagpole. And this did it, must have done it as a director, because right then and there he's thinking, I can picture him thinking, I'm going to make a movie out of this. I'm going to make a movie. So he would get together with Gene later, write a screenplay, then he would try pitching his new movie idea to the MGM folks, except MGM, they weren't really into it because up to this point, Bob was directing horror movies. And a couple good ones too. But he had a hit movie between some of those called Porky's. Remember Porky's?
Yeah.
Good thing for Porky's. By the way, that's about Bob's upbringing in Fort Lauderdale. Good thing for Porky's. MGM were a little more accepting. They're like, we did have such fun, such success on the set of Porky's. Tell you what, Bob, if you give us a sequel to that, we'll fund this new Christmas movie idea I have. And that's how it all started. So winter of 1983, they would produce A Christmas Story, and later that summer they would roll out A Porky's 2. They wouldn't give the two gents a whole lot of money. I'm talking by movie standards, for like $3 million, but it was more than what the two gents could scrape together. So hey, all systems go, and the two objectives were, for Gene, he wanted to set the scene in a town like would remind you of where he grew up, which was a Midwestern town, 1940s era, like Steel City, kind of like here. And Bob, he really wanted to find a department store that would keep their Christmas decorations up well after Christmas. I'm talking like 3 months into the new year, and this proved to be a tall order. I mean, think about it. Who would want to do that? Oh, yeah. They would put the letter out to 100 stores, talk to 20 different ones in the Rust Belt, and one day they would get a phone call from a department store in downtown Cleveland, and since you all have seen the movie, you'll tell me the name of the store is?
Big
All right, I appreciate that. You guys, I have seen the movie. It's good. All right, and you can bet the production crew that they assembled would drive there on the spot, and they would just see it, and it was everything they envisioned. It was chandeliers, it was grand, big enough to build a Santa display. And while they're downtown, it was located on Public Square, which is the square of Cleveland here. They realized they can film the parade scenes because up to this point they're thinking Toronto. So they will look across the distance and see the steel yard, the stacks, and they're thinking, hey, we're here for the day. Let's go explore, much like you folks. But mind you, this is 1983. It's hard to imagine it was a time before cell phones, GPS, and this thing called Google. What do you think happened to this group of people from a different town looking for the stacks? You did. You got lost, big time lost. Several wrong turns later, I venture to say they came right down Raleigh Avenue here, this rolling stop, and they would see the house. And this wasn't part of the plan. They would see it together, they're all thinking the same thing. We can film here. It's ideal. And it was. It hadn't been updated like the rest of the houses in the neighborhood. They would come up the steps here, knock on the door, and see if the owner was around. No answer. Where is he? Where's the dude, He wasn't around, neighbors weren't out, so they would walk across the street to the Little Raleigh Inn. And they would find him there at the end of the bar, having a beer with his friends, but he wasn't happy to see the Hollywood movie types. Of course not, right? You think they just headed back out, hey, sorry to bother you. No, of course not. They actually worked their wonderful comfort food menu to their advantage. Who's been to the rally? I knew a handful, right? What do you think?
Great.
Pretty great, right? Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives was back there in April 2022. So they would work that menu. You can bet it was probably, I don't know, a meatloaf sandwich, or maybe it was the mac and cheese, or the bacon wrapped tater tots, fried pickles. None of that. It was actually a check for $20,000 that they would ultimately present to him. What do you think he said then?
Of course.
Of course. That's $60,000 today's money. Oh, of course. You're right on that. So next thing you know, they're coming over here to film, and they would do the casting for the actors first. And so we have, just a little refresher, Peter Billingsley played Ralphie. Ian Petrella played his little brother Randy, and Ian's coming to the gift shop this coming Friday and Saturday to sign autographs for those of you who are local, or those of you who are close by, like Detroit. Come back to see us, right? Or even those from Virginia. Come on down. Also, the Evil Elf will be with us, Patty. And Scott Farkas just rolled out a new beer. He's been in Akron lately, and up here. But anyway, Melinda Dillon played Mom, and Darren McGavin played the old man. So then soon after auditions, then we would get into the filming, and you could bet they would roll the cameras in here and film little Randy being overdressed right here in front of us. Could put his arms down. The Bumpus Hounds would come through that front door and exit the back. And the major award, which would also come through that front door, but it almost didn't come through in one piece because the crewmen didn't measure the door correctly, and that's being a lower budget film, and under time constraint, they weren't going to remake it, so they said, just take something off of it. If you look behind you here, they would take 6 inches off the left side of the crate, and that's why it reads above our favorite Italian expression, what?
Fragile!
What's it read up top here, though? Anyone?
His end up.
His end up. Yeah, that's a pretty comedic scene there. And the gent who would bring that in would be one of Cleveland's own, Jim Moralovitz, who lived on West 11th. He was one of the first persons to welcome the crew to town. They would cast Jim as the delivery guy. So next time you rewatch the movie, no Jim's in it. All right, I know you guys are as anxious as I am to take some photos or own the house, some things you can do in the next 10 minutes. You can pick up the major award and show that off to your friends and colleagues. I'll help you get your photo. I know you're dying to touch the LegLamp. You can caress it. You can get your picture of the LegLamp. you can get everything reenact some of the scenes like the blue bowling balls and the red Ryder BB gun. Just don't what? Good. I got a good crowd here. Under the sink that's open to you, both cabinet doors to reenact that scene like Little Randy. And of course, get upstairs, roam upstairs, the boys' bowl, the phones up upstairs, and the bathroom. Check out. You just don't sign on the soap. All right, you guys are free to roam around here. We'll catch you right about 11:10 before we head out to the backyard.
Randy in his bed.
Check the desk out.
I know, right? You'll shoot your eye out. I do that. Rub his glasses when he got I do that.
Take some pictures.
They have it set up really good now.
I just love it. You have to touch the legs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
That was good.
Keegan, I want to get a picture of you with the gun. You can shoot me and we'll send it to Dad.
All right, man. Good to see you. Good to see you.
That's not a whoop, Ralphie.
All we gotta do is say it.
That's not a whoop, Ralphie.
I don't know if I could fit in there.
I don't want to try. I'm a little bit too big to fit in there.
Joe. Good,
Yes.
Joe.
Oh yeah.
Joe, look.
Oh yeah.
The vision to make this into an Airbnb, so you can stay the night at a Christmas Story house. So if you saw the door beyond the bathroom door upstairs, that conceals a loft. sleeps 4 people, full-size kitchen where you can bake your family a turkey or a ham. I had a guy the other week, you get tour tickets along. So if you, like, say a family of 6, you get tickets for the tour, gratis. And he was here in the store. I was over there talking to him, and he goes, "Chuck, I'd love to talk more, but I got to put a lasagna in the oven. We're getting on the next tour." I thought that was pretty cool. So I said the best part of staying overnight at the Christmas Story house, other than sleeping in the boys' beds, is that at the end of the tours, we close at 7. We open that door at 7 o'clock, allowing your family privy to the whole house. From 7 o'clock at night to 9 the next morning, you can hang out anywhere in the house. And I can tell you where I would be. I'd be in that cabinet where little Randy would be hanging out, drinking my Ovaltine. Or maybe my IPA. And then in 2018, Brian would purchase the Bumpus house across the way. That's also an Airbnb. That was 2 units. First floor sleeps 4, second floor sleeps 6. It's appointed like 1940 style, really quite quaint. And the best part of both properties, especially off-season, and our off-season's a very long time. It starts like January through the end of October. Both are very affordable. The first unit over there, which has a little porch, is $195 a night. Can't beat that. So. All right, so we're going to head out to the backyard. I want to tell you a little bit about Black Barton again. The other reason they love this location so much is the view of the steel yard. It's literally on the steel yard, a working steel yard at that. So come on out, let's go.
Come on, guys.
Wow.
The sirens and Black Barton.
Black Bart.
It's about 1.5 miles across. I've got a ramp here too for people that if you need to go down that way. Yeah, feel free to walk out in the yard. This is the original backyard. They would drop the fence back a little bit to give it more like a park-like setting. Were in Toronto, but when they would find the house, and you all know now it was serendipitous how they found the house, they would not be as lucky with snow here because it was a very cold winter, no lake effect happened, none of that snow machine. So they had to come up with some creative ways. Majority of the snow for the scenes, they would use various snowmaking equipment from Brandywine, which is at our ski resort. It's about 30 miles across town here to the east. They would rent that for a day or two. It was expensive. It's low budget film, but they would get the job done, including spraying up the trees, get that icicle look, all right? There were some other ways they did it, and when you get over to the museum, there's some pictures of firefighters foam for background, soap suds for background, and someone asked, wasn't there some food involved? I said, yep. The last scene of the movie where you see the old man and his wife enjoying the Christmas tree, and they're looking at the lights all aglow, and you see it fluttering outside, that was something you could eat, something, a light flake, something you would find in your pantry. What was it?
Potatoes.
Yeah, instant mashed potatoes. Can you tell me if it was garlic or red potato? Anyway, is that cool? Yeah. So when Brian would renovate this house, he would take this window out here that has a guest bathroom on the first floor for people that stay here. But I suggest the management at least put the facade of it back in. This is the site of the scene where Ralphie peers his red Ryder BB gun out to fight off Black Barton and his gang. That's a dream sequence. Remember, Mom and Dad are tucked underneath the table. Dad's in a coonskin cap. Mom's in a bonnet, right? It's a short scene, quite a skirmish. He fires 3 times, but gets 4 villains. We watch 3 shots, 4 villains, meaning Ralphie's a really good shot. In fact, he's such a good shot, his dad under the table will lean into Mom and call him a what? Remember what he said? It was a compliment. He's a blank. It's actually 2 words. Yeah, Deadeye. Yep, and he referred to his rifle as old what? The color of the sky, but not in Cleveland. Oh, it is today. Old what? Oh, blue, yeah, oh, blue, yeah. And the other scene that took place here, of course, was when Ralphie would get his Christmas switch. It's my favorite part of the movie. He gets his Red Ryder. He gets it presented to him by whom? His dad, right? Pretty endearing, right? And then his parents would give him permission. His mom, kind of reluctantly, but he would come out, hang a target on the Golden Age sign. The rest is history. What happened? You guys are great. You guys are really good. I love it. Getting all the red shirt. We'll get you guys to come in as tour guides. We always use new tour guides here. Come on. All right, we're going to head over to the museum. I'm going to stop at the park bench. I've got a great story to tell you. It's worth the price of admission. It's my favorite story in the whole tour. Right across from the house. Clark's cameo bench, okay? The story goes, the old man wins the major award. He runs across the street right where we're about standing, and he's asking his wife inside the house to kind of center the lamp in the window. Remember that? Okay, and then the neighbor comes up with the ski cap, and he's kind of like nosing in, going like, "What's going on, Parker?" And he says, "I won a major award." He's annoyed, right? It's like, what? Why would you know that, right? Well, that was Bob Clark, the director. He had written himself in at the last moment because he felt the scene needed more dialogue, which it did, but he wasn't thinking it through because he literally walks off a 1983 film set into a 1940s movie, so he's wearing 1983 stuff, including a Miami Dolphins ski cap. And if you guys follow NFL, Miami wouldn't come into the NFL till like 1966, and this movie was depicted to be in 1940. He's also wearing a Cleveland Firefighters jacket, and if you recall, the movie was when or where? It was in a city and state. What was the state? Right. He's wearing. It's actually Home in Indiana, which is a street name in Hammond, Indiana, where Gene grew up. So he's wearing a Cleveland jacket in Home in Indiana. And it's also a nylon jacket, and nylon wasn't around till well after the 40s. And also he's wearing blue jeans. Blue jeans weren't hip back then. The only persons who wore blue jeans were the steel workers. Otherwise, everyone else wore slacks back in the day. All right, and so when we head into the museum here momentarily, I'll show you where we have Bob Clark's original legal pad where he wrote himself in, and there is where you can find out the character's name. So most people don't know that. That's a really good question. Even for the geeks that know it, they don't know it. It's only mentioned once. He says Parker, and he says blank. He calls him by name, and it's one of these names where I just can't figure out. Gene Shepard wrote the story. I often wonder why he chose his name. Red wall that you saw when you first walked in, it's all fan art. So if you want to participate on it, inspired, let me know at the end of the tour, get the info you need. Let's set your work in. Also, the only piece that's in this museum that's not real is the Academy is putting us. Oh, go ahead.
We have this, that still has
And then we have another one I was just talking about.
She said it was tied and she had
Christmas story all the way.
No, me too.
It was almost a three-way tie because Dale
was Broadway.
two people would have talked about like after we both tied again, and Dale was on his own, like, I really need your vote, and Dale's like,
No.
so that it would have been four,
Right,
3.
right, yeah, that's crazy.
Ran a score.
Flash Gordon.
Flash in his costumes.
Oh, the A++++.
Yeah.
You guys ready to hear about the Red Ryder BB gun?
Yes.
All right. So then we'll head out here. So we have just a couple stories and we'll head outside. Okay. So the Red Ryder BB gun, there were 6 made for the movie. Any reason? Anyone want to give me the reason why they make them? Because when I first started here last December, I've been this for a year, huh?
Short demand on toys.
No, yeah, that's a good question. A good answer. So I was thinking you could just go to like the JCPenney Sporting Goods or Kmart and get them. Why not? You can just pick them right off the shelf. It was actually because Gene Shepherd was part of it too, but Peter Billingsley was left-handed. And they make a lot of left-handed things back in 1983, so they wanted to make something that was left-handed. Someone says, well, how can it be a left-handed rifle? What's all about that? Because there's a leather tassel on the left side that makes it left-handed. And also, Gene Shepherd had grown up with one as a boy. He recalled one that had a compass and a thing that tells time in the stock of the rifle, which is a sundial. And although Daisy BB Gun would be manufacturing these, they didn't recall that model, so they said, no problem, Gene, we'll make 6 for the movie, and that's what they would do. So I'm proud to share with you this morning an authentic Red Ryder BB gun that was used in the film. Peter Billingsley would receive one for Christmas the following year after the movie's release under his Christmas tree. There are 3 in private collections, 2 here in America, 1 in Canada. And if you've done your math correctly, that leaves how many? 1. 3. 1. Yeah. I won't get on you about that. Yeah, so 1 that is missing. 1 to find. Kind of like that Picasso they just found in a basement. So anything goes, right? So here's the 4 things you need to look for if you happen across such a pretty penny. Leather tassel, left side of the gun. There's a photo of it, leather tassel. Above the leather tassel, engraved in the metal, along with registration information, reads the words Plymouth, Michigan, USA. They were all made there. That plant's no longer in business. Everything's consolidated in Rogers, Arkansas, where Daisy BB Gun is headquartered. They would install a compass and a thing that tells time on the right side of the stock, and the barrel must be made of steel. There you have it. Man, if you happen across something like that, and people always ask, like, where is it? I'm like, well, it's probably in someone's closet. They don't know what it's going to, they sell it on a yard sale for $2, and that's later, right? Anyway, but if you do find it, I'd say hightail it down to Rogers to get it authenticated, but before you do, you need to make 2 phone calls. One to your attorney, and the other one to me. Or the other one to me and your attorney, or just leave it completely out. All right, so Bob Clark, we know his cameo was in the movie, and someone mentioned the name of the character he played was what?
Sweet.
Sweet. And that's my big question. If I ever had a question, would be why Sweet? Where did that name come? Because Gene Shepherd, he was always picking up different things. Like Randy, his brother in the movie, he has a real brother named Randy in the movie. So I mean at home. All right, so. Bob Clark's cameo. Does anyone know where Gene Shepherd had his cameo? Had his moment in the sun? Anyone out right now?
Pigbeast.
Right. Who was he?
He was the guy in line.
He was the grouchy man. There's a picture of him here in this room. He's the grouchy man in Pigbeast department store would tell the kids where the end of the line started. That's our beloved author. And that's his family, by the way. That's his wife and his son were also in that scene. There's a Polaroid that's pictured up above it. Pretty cool.
As grouchy as he does.
Yeah, that's a great. No, I know. I agree. So this is fun.
He didn't look like a real easy boy.
That's a really good point. I've often thought that. I just never said it. All right. So these are some of the images here. We talked about it in the yard, but here's all those images of the fabricated snow, up here. So firefighters' foam, soap suds. These are all pictures of the snowmaking equipment, and then here's the reminiscent of the scene at the end where the old man and his wife were, enjoying the flurries. When you see that, that looks like real snow, but it's not, so it's pretty cool. All right, so we're heading out to the garages. You ready for this? For the last leg of my tour. No pun intended. So we're talking about what scene you saw the fire engine in. There's 2 scenes it was in.
The tongue stick.
That's the one I'm looking for. All right, and the name of the character that was on the pole.
Flick.
Right, Flick and the flagpole. All right, so we've identified that all the major snow scenes were where?
Toronto.
Good, you guys are listening, good. So the flagpole must be where? Trick question. The flagpole was actually fabricated. It was actually a piece of PVC plastic pipe that was painted to look like a steel pole. They would drill a small hole in the side of it, introduce suction, vacuum to it. So all these years you thought Flick was stuck to the pole, he was sucked to it. That's where my friends kick in and say, my friends always kick in and say, you sucked to his jaw. They're like, yeah. Anyway, so Flick was a really funny guy. And that's why he was cast for the role. His name was Scott Schwartz. And not only was he a funny guy, he was a real instigator and a real prankster. And when they weren't filming, he was tucked away in a hotel downtown Cleveland where all the actors stayed when they weren't filming. He was getting his younger friends to help him throw water balloons on passerby on Public Square. Now today, I can handle one, but this is like wait till the end of the week when it really would have been cool, right? He would also get his younger friends to help him order expensive room service to the producers of the hotel, unbeknownst to them. And what really got him into trouble was ordering pizzas to Bob Clark at midnight. Now, I just wonder how many pizzas it took for Bob Clark to finally get the idea. Thought, hey, I can get this guy back. So he would get him back on the scene where Miss Shields and the rest of the class are looking at a poor flick all by himself, sucked to the pole. That's when Bob Clark would say, cut, and send all the crew members out to lunch on that scene where he's not coming off the pole. And when you hear him saying, oh, Cougar, you know that thing? He's not talking to the kids. The kids are inside. He's actually trying to call the guys back in. Cougar, you're going to come back and get me, aren't you? I mean, heck, he would be out there on that pole for minutes on end. It was brutal. And how I know that? I mean, I know the story, but back in April, he came to visit, and I recognized him, and I was able to catch up with him, get a photo with him, and ask him, dude, I'm always telling the story of you getting your tongue sucked to the pole. How long did Bob Clark leave you hanging out there? He says, almost 10 minutes. I really thought I was a goner. It was cold, and I really thought they weren't coming back. I said, you learned your lesson. He goes, oh my God, did I learn my lesson? Jesus. Crazy, huh? Crazy. That's called karma, by the way. Okay. And then, last but not least, this is the last leg of the tour right before us here. This is a 1938 Oldsmobile touring sedan, one of 3 that were used in the making of the movie. Sadly, the one from the old fudge scene, that's in a private collection, as well as some other things like Pink Nightmare suit people ask about, Ralphie's rhinestone cowboy outfit, that's in Peter Billingsley's collection. The Zeppelin, that's in Randy's personal collection. Someday we're hopeful that maybe that'll come back, or come to the museum anyway. But this one was used in the parade. This is the parade scene, Olds. And you may ask how they would pull the parade off. Well, they would film the parade in the wee hours of the morning. They would call auto collectors from all over the land to bring in their 1940s automobiles. I'm talking like 100 collectors to bring in their 1940s cars and just literally flood downtown Public Square. Anyone that's not been to Public Square, make that part of your plan today or tomorrow when you're next time you visit. It's 5 acres down there. And back in 1983, it was a bigger, more traffic. Now they've installed a public park with some green space, but still a big area. They would also work with 2 area high school marching bands. One was closer to Akron. It's actually a high school called Revere High School. They had authentic looking 1940s uniforms. Farmer Band, which is closer to here to Cleveland, were playing 1940s music back in 1983. So they were able to incorporate the sight and the sound with all those cars, with all those people at that time of the morning, which I think is just fantastic. And then here you folks come 40 years later from far and wide to again kind of embrace the city of Cleveland, the house from A Christmas Story, to again kind of bring it all home. And I thank you guys for taking the time this morning to join me in my tour. That concludes it. You guys are a wonderful audience.
Thank you.